guys. 11.2, I believe, is the current version that we're playing. That's what it says on the screen over there, so that must be what it is. Yes, I watch to make sure see the chat and things like that. Hey, that almost rhymed. Not quite, but maybe that. Okay. We're talking, of course, to those who are watching later, because nobody's here just yet at the first few seconds. Not that of an anticipated streamer. Okay, let's get sort of set up, and then we'll see about starting to hit that record button for more views. Okay. Okay. Well, I do believe I've overdone the well, no, I don't know that I've overdone. I believe I don't know how many petroleum refineries we need. And I still need to make that video. But I'm going to push to get a few more of these other units into production. I do want to keep some battleships and carriers in production for to replace the losses that we've had, because we've had some major setbacks. I hope that I'm struggling. You know, I mean, it's not like torture or anything, and we're not like no one's knocking on the gates of New York City or anything like that. But I hope you guys appreciate me sticking with this when things aren't going well. I definitely have the idea that that this is winnable, if you will, and not just no, not futile. You know, sometimes if you get to a point and you're, you know, you can't defeat the Soviet Union, you know, as Germany, the game is unwinnable. If you look at my series of playing as Italy, even though we conquered a huge amount of territory here, we couldn't push into Soviet territory. And so at that, you know, at some point the game becomes, yeah, no point in continuing to push through. Hello, Paul, how you doing? Are you setting, well, we're trying to set the stage for trying to save the situation in Africa is the what we're doing. We're trying to, and I've been hit by fighters, trying to bring in supplies. Paul has been very good at giving suggestions. Now, unfortunately, a lot of his suggestions are not capable to be done with Hearts of Iron 3, because a lot of them are dealing with supply issues. Okay. Well, although we have, we're gonna where's another airbase? Okay, we're gonna move these guys to here. And so supply is an interesting thing here. This unit here and this unit here are in Saudi Arabia, so they're eating supplies, if you will. Well, the U.S. will send whatever it is that they're eating is, you know, whether, you know, when I think of it as food, fuel, munitions, whatever you want to think of supplies and fuel are, they will send it to Saudi Arabia, to one of its ports. It also has a port over here. I don't know where it's for sure going. Do we see that on the map? No, we don't see that on the map. I don't know why we don't see that on the map, but I do know that it will sort of be export. Maybe it's even somehow, I don't know, put out, but it will replace the supplies that it's eating in Saudi Arabia. And this unit up here, who's in British territory, we will be replacing the Americans will be replacing the supplies that it's eating off the British establishment. But those supplies are sent to here, to London in essence. So if Britain can't control the seas enough or doesn't have enough transports to get the supplies to the theater, or doesn't have access to it because we don't control the Suez or whatever the things are, these guys will starve. And we can't do the idea of send American supplies here and then send supplies up to here. What we are trying to do here is we are sending supplies to here and to here. And I don't know if we're sending to Europe, whether that's worth it. And those supplies are slowly going all the way across North Africa. Because we no longer, because Britain lost Gibraltar, we no longer can supply into ports into the Mediterranean until we have either the Suez or Gibraltar controlled. So that has locked us down from here. So I'm trying to fly in what supplies that are coming across to keep these guys supplied, is the idea here. So that's what I'm doing to try to supply, and that is the best that I think that can be done with the limitations of this engine that we are playing with. Okay, you come here. And we can fly more supplies. And this is definitely the unprepared United States fighting World War II, the misprepared more transport. These transports represent civil aircraft that were taken over by the Army Air Corps, if you will. Not because I've not built much or any transport aircraft. Okay, so that's going to continue to supply there. Now out here, well, I'm going to keep these fleets here in why is he so low? I don't yeah, it's sort of kind of weird. I know a lot of this from playing as Germany, because you can look here and okay, you can see here 428.18 are traded away of supply. And I don't think, because we can look at my exports here, that's exporting money. And this is how, it doesn't show it on the map, but this is sort of how I know that it's happening, is because we're looking at my exports here. And so far, again, I see the stacks of coins, everything else, no supplies are being exported. Coal is being exported. Are we selling any supplies? I don't know that we are. To like any allies or anything. Yeah, we are selling supplies. So we're importing some supplies. Sorry, we're importing some supplies, but we're not exporting any supplies. So we're not selling supplies to any of our allies, and we are exporting or traded away. And that traded away number there, those 408 and 28, that represents what is being, and I think it just arbitrarily traded out. Normally I see that number as Germany and traded to place, I'm presuming, because I have some forces sitting in, either an Italian or Romanian or whatever cities or controlled hexes, because, like this, that has the other nation on it. So it's sort of arbitrarily pulled away to, but I guess it's not part of the convoy network going out of the ships that we will see here of green is a resource and supply is red is a supply convoy or fuel going out. So and those are just going again to our bases here. So it's sort of an arbitrary thing set up, and that's what that represents, because I've tested it by moving forces in the very distant past in and out of another country and see that number change. Because I was wondering why. It was like, I think it was for fuel. I was trying to figure it out for Germany. Why was I trading away fuel when I needed it so desperately? And I figured out it was, again, fuel that was being used by Germany at the time inside somebody else's territory. So it's sort of a arbitrary, magically done, if you will, off map, whatever, handling of it. So I need to supply into here because this is U.S. territory here. Sort of represents all the bases all around here that were pseudo U.S. territory. In effect, that they were, had U.S. guards outside of them and only letting in people by their permission. So this represents what's up there. There's something that again, this is to encourage the AI to do an air war against Germany and to allow, because if you just gave them a few random provinces in here, the U.S. wouldn't have the ability to supply them. So this is all set up, and this was sort of a good compromise. Instead of putting the U.S. down here and then maybe not defending it well, or Britain not seeing it as needed to be defended, because it will see, oh, well, the U.S. controls it, so they don't need to put any forces behind it, whatever. This was sort of, I think, a very, very clever compromise dealing with the engine. Would I have approved something like this if I was Paradox designing the game? No, I would say fix the damn game so that the AI would look for bases to put them on, as well as we can see here now, that could hold up to 40 aircraft there in Aldershot. That's another thing we can't do is America cannot build anything in foreign, even Allied controlled territory. So now, under Hearts of Iron 4, if it is I don't know about Allied territory, I just quite honestly don't know, but if it's a puppet or a dominion or one of the other subs, if it's one of your sort of sub-controlled countries, if you will, because there's puppets and there's dominions and whatever, then you can, to a certain degree, build in their territory, but only up to their, last I checked, their technological level. So you can't come in and build a bunch of maybe high-tech German radar in Bulgaria if Bulgaria doesn't have that technological level. So I still think that's a silly limitation, because we do know that Germany, when it was during World War II, somewhere around in the Balearic Islands, I don't know if it's Ibiza or Mallorca or Mallorca or wherever it was, did build some radar facilities that they did not let the Spanish into. I don't know what the final outcome of those facilities were, whether the German, at some point, I'm sure the agreement comes to an end. I don't know if it's so late for Germany that the Spanish just take it over and the German operators go, fine, good, please keep us around and don't send us home, and at that point, or whether the Germans destroyed the equipment or what. I don't know what happened to the equipment ultimately, but the idea was that they were German operated, try to keep spies from, I don't think they were so worried about the Spanish. They just worried that the Spanish weren't going to keep the secret well enough from, other foreign spies infiltrating, bribing, whatever. That was quite doable in Spain to get information out of it. That's what they were worried about. So we do know of them building, in essence, radar facilities outside of Germany. We definitely know of a large construction operation that is done in multiple areas. I think in Sardinia. I know in Sicily, and I think it's also part of Italy, as the Italian boot as well, before the landings in Sicily. So when it was still very much royal fascist Italy, not later on once the Italians surrender and they're building, the Gothic line and the other various defensive lines once it becomes German-controlled territory, if you will. But they were building, they were seeing that things weren't going well, and this was either leading up to or post the collapse here in Tunisia. They were building up and around, some of the German construction, mostly with Italian work crews, but German technical, assistance for, field fortifications based on the Atlantic Wall, the West Wall, and other stuff that they were working with the Italians and helping to support that. And so we know that these things happened, and this game doesn't allow for it. I cannot see a good reason why you would say have a game, and I can't understand that. Modders, I understand why we can't get in and mess with things, but why the game designers would not be able to make a game that, well, hey, you want to build a building, any one of these things that are buildable, because they've created things that are not buildable because they don't want you to spam it out or various other reasons. But anything that's buildable, you can build it you should be able to build it anywhere that is in territory within your faction. Once somebody becomes a faction member. Now I do have other events, and that is what started me down the modding road, is the inability to do that. And it's my air bases mod, air bases and foreign aid mod. Very simple little mod that when you got somebody like Saudi Arabia or Afghanistan or Ethiopia in your faction, a little event pops up that will allow you to spend some of your supplies and a little bit of fuel to dump in a really modest amount of supplies and fuel, because I was sort of figuring Afghanistan and how much fuel they had at the time, and put in like a low-level air base, and like depending on the country, and it varies. I picked a likely location. There is like one here, and because I was looking around the map, there is no air bases out here in Turkey. So if Turkey's in the, could be, and I coded it so, because you actually sort of do it twice and get double the stuff. If say Germany controls Turkey, and then and for the Allies side, it depends on what country it was, whether it was going to be the U.S. or Britain that gets the thing for the Allies. So if Turkey goes into the Axis, Germany can build an air base out here, and then if Turkey goes into the Allies can build another air base here, and it's just immediately insta put on the map because it's sort of limited. And I was sort of looking at the U.S.'s ability to do these things, and so yeah, if Germany is going to come out here, I don't know if it was here or somewhere. I don't think it was right on the coast. It's in the mod, but you'll get like a level 1 or 2 depending on what I felt at the time. And we come, I think we're using Allies, the air bases in here. I think that's as part of the game, but that may not be. This may be something else. So, but I think that is for the Axis to be able to come into here and whatnot. So that's what got me started in modding, was the idea of putting some air bases down in Allied territory, and possibly an anti-aircraft gun or two, and a low-level, single-level fortification, just sort of meant as a bit of a garrison reinforcement kind of thing. So yeah, okay, now back to sort of getting ready to play here of what to research. Well, I guess we could do rockets. Haven't done that yet for the U.S. U.S. definitely did do rockets. Some of the reasons I haven't done some of these is just because I'm not planning on building them as the U.S. Not that I couldn't or wouldn't, but just not currently in the plans. And ski brigade, am I going to build a ski brigade? Now, if I had, huge IC advantage that I think I should have, okay, we'll do mid-air refueling. Right. They did it during the time period, yes. I don't know if they ever did it operationally. And I doubt, I'm sure the U.S. could have if they really built into it, but I doubt too many nations could have built it into large scale. Hello, Alex. How you doing? Large enough to really operationally scale and do it, but since it's in the game, we'll do that. We'll take advantage of that. Any of these I want to do. I don't want to requisition fleets right now. Help synthetic. Some of them I would just clear out if I was going to do destroy Franco Spain. Well, I'm not ready to invade Spain. Not sure. Popular fuel supplies. No. Come on. Postpone our mine expansion. No, we're not worried about that. Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. So. Yeah. Some of it is my fault for not playing the mod well enough. I'll admit that. Now, whether I think, I still don't know how. I'm gonna make. I haven't made the response video. Just haven't felt like it with everything, with other things going on, not directly related to it. I don't know how this helps the game. I know it's been in there since 10 whatever. I just hadn't played the game. I don't know how it helps the game because all it's doing is affecting the rate of converting oil to fuel. And I don't know. Hello, Arno. Good to have you here. Thanks for promoting up the live stream. Saw your posts over on Twitter. Very good. And we are live. We are live currently on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. I didn't do the other one, Rumble. Just it takes more steps to get that set up, and I just didn't take that this morning. I don't know of a. I'm not talking about synthetic fuel, liquefying oil or liquefying coal to oil and then converting it to gasoline or diesel fuel or other fuels. Because you could put it into like the oil-based steam turbine, oil-based heaters for the steam turbine ships. Kind of thing. So no on Rumble, not today. So I don't know if that was ever a bottleneck. I don't make that. I'll add that in the video and ask if anybody has any information of where that was a real significant bottleneck. Because I definitely, I do know that some of the facilities that they were bombing here may have been fuel refining, because they really, when the Allies were bombing well, let's make the video and I'll talk about it then. Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here, and we're playing Hearts of Iron 3's Black Ice, and we're playing as the United States. I was just talking to the chat here a little bit about these things. Petroleum refineries, and I still haven't made my proper response video for, and he was very nice about it. Oh my god, we have some disagreements on the direction, and serious disagreement, shall we say, on the direction of how Black Ice should go. Doesn't mean he's, I'm not mad at him as a person or anything like that. It's just we have a disagreement. People take sometimes I'm not talking about him, but sometimes people take that as being hostile towards the person. No, we just have fundamental disagreements on how some of this stuff should go. And does that mean, well, of course, I think I'm right, but does that mean that objectively I'm right and he's wrong? No, it just, we have a disagreement. So I don't know how this helps the game, helps improve the game. And I know it's been here for a while, but I haven't necessarily been playing all the versions where it's been here. How how that your oil production level versus your fuel production level and converting oil to fuel was a serious bottleneck for any serious nations during the war for maintaining mechanized warfare. I'm sort of, or the existing economics of the country to, which is, industrialized warfare. Because some of these nations down here, Saudi Arabia, they really didn't know about much oil until the sort of the start of it. They knew more about oil in Iraq, oil in Iran, and so a bunch of the other oil they did not know about. I don't know if they knew about down here. I think they may have. And some of these, they were starting to get the idea of oil. I mean, I forget the company name. There was a major company set up with and tasked with the idea of exploring for oil in Saudi Arabia. So yeah, in some of these cases, you may have a bottleneck situation for the conversion of oil into either gasoline or diesel. And we're talking outside the idea of German synthetic fuel production here, because that is a different thing than what I'm talking about here. So it's getting from oil to fuel. Now, I do know that, my understanding is the bombing at Ploetsi were not so much set up to destroy the oil field itself, but to destroy the oil handling facilities here. I don't know how much that is involved in refining of the oil, because from all of the documentaries I saw, and they're talking about train loads, of oil being shipped out. So the sort of metal tubes on train cars, big ones. Hauling fuel out of the region, or hauling oil out of the region. And I'm understanding that as hauling oil out, not hauling out. That very well may have been, and I do believe there was some refining going on here, but I don't know how much it was for refining for operations in just for Romania versus using that oil. I think it was mostly exported as oil. So. And they were trying to destroy all the, the pipelines and everything to set up, to quickly get oil out of the region. Get it. So they weren't so much trying to blow up the individual oil well. They were trying to blow up the oil handling facilities that got it onto the rail cars and got it out to where it needed to be. But if anybody out there, okay, holiday punch, good life. Get caught sleeping on the job. Just raise your hand and say, "In Jesus' name, amen." Yes. Nice holiday punch. That you were praying. Depends on how you were sleeping there, I guess. But right. So I don't know, and if anybody can enlighten me where we find in World War II plenty of oil, but not enough refining capacity. That would be interesting. I would love to know about that. I know some of the major fleet elements of the Japanese fleet was moved down to here because and these oil facilities down in this region were severely damaged when they were turned over before the Japanese got in charge of them. Took them over from the Dutch. But this oil coming out of the ground, my understanding is you can put it straight into the boilers of the Japanese, main fleet ships. Now, my understanding is it burns fairly damn dirty, and it will necessitate cleaning it out a lot quicker, the residue. So it would be better to go through a minimal refining / screening process to get out impurities. Refining, I'm referring to the idea of boiling in a pot, and that's how you separate the different uh, qualities of the fuels. Where the other is screening it, putting it through, filtering it, I guess maybe you'd say, putting it through filters just to get out dirt and whatnot in the uh, in the oil itself. So now that is very different than either like aviation fuel, truck fuel, diesel fuel for your submarine engines and other similar sorts of engines in your source. Those do need levels of refining, but it was just easier to keep the Japanese fleet down here than either at some point than either, and as they were not so much losing out here because I don't think they ever took truck. That was a major Japanese, or the sort of major Japanese base, I believe. Sort of bypassed it by going to the north, or keeping up in Japan. But either way, you needed to ship oil around a lot, and they were trying to do it as much as they could, but losing ships to submarines. And I do know that the Japanese secure massive oil. Well, large oil, massive may not be the right term, but large oil fields up into here. In Burma, and there was some level of refining locally as well with that. So that is a thing. Pennsylvania crude can be used as lubricating home heating oil. Right. Okay. Good to know. And I was talking to a friend about some of the problems that the Northeast is having right now with diesel, and he was also considering the idea with home heating oil, and I wasn't so sure about that. But if you and I do know, because like one of the oil companies, Arco here in California, imports from Alaska down there is light sweet crude, and that is like the best crude. I had an uncle who was very much in the refining business, worked for some major oil companies. And so it single pass refining and right out. It was that easy to do. Where a lot of these, they have to put it through multiple times to get to fully utilize the oil the way they want to do it. So different oils have different like levels of sulfur in them and other impurities. And I just know that some of it's sulfur. I know bits and pieces of this either through family or other documentaries and readings that I've done. So it's far from complete. So yes, if Pennsylvania area, and I do know that there, and it's we can see here, could be some here. Well, Pennsylvania. Why am I not seeing oil? I do know there's oil here. Maybe there should be on the map. I mean, not always good to look under the hood. Now, does it really matter in this game if they've left off the Pennsylvania oil off the map, so long as it's made up for in oil in other locations? Meaning overall tonnage or barrel use, or whatever the amount is. Yes and no. No, it doesn't matter if the U.S. has never invaded and we just need oil production. Yes, it might matter if half of the oil is produced on the West Coast and half the oil is produced on the East Coast, in real life. But if it's all on the West Coast in the map, and then of course somebody takes over the West Coast and the East Coast dies because it doesn't have oil. So it probably doesn't really matter that, and I do know that there are, because there's some fracking up here problems and other things going on, or problems as well as protests. So I don't know why I don't see oil here. I guess it's just the Europeans don't know enough about America here. Should be oil in city, Pittsburgh, are you referring to, or something? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Or Philadelphia, maybe Philadelphia. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but there is oil out here, I know, and that was some of the first oil in America was sort of discovered and started to be pumped out. I know was up in the Northeast. It was only a bit not very much later, but a bit later they start finding out in Texas and Oklahoma and other places, and that's where the greater volume of it is. But there's still a fair amount coming in. Yeah, fair amount industry. Oil City, okay. In Oil City, oh, okay. Is there like, well, but is there? Oh, here, okay, right here. So they even have a pub. It's called Oil City. Okay, hello people. Nice map design you have here. Okay, you've got it, but you don't have it there in Oil. Okay, so it is actually Oil City, right? Okay, so yeah, so it's probably not a bother and probably not worth modding it in. Yeah, I found it here. Yeah, so if anybody ever comes across information about, hey, we had plenty of oil, but we couldn't refine it in World War II, because does it matter if button production, things you button your clothes like on a uniform, if button production is in the game? Well, but they use buttons, gamer, in World War II, and we should have everybody have button factories. Well, but was it a button bottleneck? Because you can make buttons out of cloth. You can make buttons out of wood. You can make buttons out of plastic. You can make buttons out of metal. Now, maybe the guards, the English guards, regiments that are parading around for Queen Elizabeth won't get new brass buttons because brass and the particular metals are needed for the war industry. So yeah, their fancy uniforms won't have brass buttons, and other buttons may be going, and they won't use plastic buttons, or Bakelite is sort of the British name for an early plastic. Bakelite, it's not terribly durable, but somewhat durable. They won't be making Bakelite buttons. They'll just have little wooden buttons or whatever on uniforms because of expediency in the war. That very well may be a thing, but it isn't worth putting into the game, buttons. So some things just that are not a bottleneck in the game, in real life, shouldn't be bothered with, in my opinion. And I just don't know how oil refining and I get the idea of taking up ICs, but did they? And I really have to wonder, and I don't know if I have any minions to put it in there, but did they go, okay, well, Germany has 150 ICs, and you build ICs starting out in the game, and then you can build the historical. And this is because the way they figured out these games is initially and I've talked to enough people at Paradox, is okay, you need to build X number of aircraft units, X number of, infantry divisions, armored divisions, submarines, and whatever else to sort of kind of represent Germany in World War II. It's never precise because, well, now they are building aircraft individually, but even there, it's never precise because you consume things like aircraft in training instead of consuming supplies. So it's still somewhat arbitrary and not precise. But let's, we're taking units and replacements and whatnot, it's not precise. But the idea is, well, then you need to be able to have 300 ICs as Germany to produce everything that Germany needs. Well, then if you throw in all of these, do you figure out, well, all of these are going to cost say 20 ICs over a time period, not just 20 ICs once, but over a time period, as you build a few going on and on and on to keep up with demand. Do they add in 20 ICs? Did they add in for the US and everybody else enough ICs to match this up? I wonder. I really, really wonder if they did. Hello. The Ruzen Curious? I'm butchering that, I'm sure. Have you tried Unity of Command 2? No, I played Unity of Command. It has a good supply system, one of the best supply system designs. I played Unity Command 1. I have not played Unity Command 2. Have you ever played, oh, Arno asks, have you ever played War on the Sea? Not that I know of. I guess so, that would be a no. Not Unity Command 2. I played Unity Command 1. There's some, not too much, but some. Okay, so what we're going to do is, I've been talking a lot. I do want feedback on the petroleum situation. Because I am talking with someone about continued development of Third Reich events. And it's not so much if it's going to be built, but it's more how it's going to be built. Okay, that just comes up motorized support unit. Advance, and that is somewhere. Yeah, I knew it was somewhere. Okay. Give them money for supplies. No, I'm doing okay on supplies, I think. I want to build up my money here. And so we are, it still require the needs to build in to use waiting for fuel. They support the attack because they don't have fucking fuel. Black ice, but it's definitely doing things like removing the need to pay your troops. Do we keep in your, how much do we modify things beyond just being, hey, these are more events for more in-depth knowledge or more in-depth play of the game. And so we're looking at that. Great new mod called Abdicom Defensive. It makes the game more challenging and more historical, like Martin B-10 bombers, Dutch light cruisers. Well, I see why you would be interested in it for sure. I don't know, on things like that, I hardly have enough time to play other things than what I'm playing and trying to learn at and do right now. So it sounds cool, but I don't know that I'm going to do that. We need to focus a bit more. Pause. Over here. Okay. You're all pushing on here. Now, a lot of these units are HQs, so there's not necessarily much fighting power in them. They're defending there, but they're just a shadow. Okay. You guys come this way. You guys come this way. You guys are having fuel problems, so you come. And I really, talking about wanting to rework Third Reich events. And that's going to take a fair amount of time. I have one volunteer who will give me a fair amount of time to do some of it, work on some of the stuff. Not that I couldn't use more volunteers to do some of the work. But I'm thinking what to do next. We got 2 more divisions. With regard to Hoi 3 after. But I'm not sure how much further we're going to get into this game, because if I can't get back the Suez, I don't think I'm really in a place to get back Gibraltar, but maybe that's the way to go, but I just don't know. Okay, yeah, let's do to the 4th Armored Division. Oh, no, no. Okay. Oh, no, we actually have the unit there. Oh, oh, we have liners. Okay. Need to hold down the key, don't I? Yes, of course I do. Into the 5th Armored Division. There we go. And, oh, maybe this guy. Oh, this was meant to go over here. Damn. Put it in the wrong spot. Maybe we do a naval invasion here. Yeah, maybe we do a naval invasion here. Alright. We'll need some units to hold Gibraltar. So they can just use horse transport. I know, but it's a nice historical game. Not saying you should right now. Just I mean, no. Yeah. There's so many games like that, Arno, that I'd love to play. Like you can spam out Japanese carriers, and they have no historical amount of ships. Yes. Yeah, that does sound good. So okay, so we're gonna have to wait a bit. Now, unfortunately, these guys are here. Now, I wanted to use them to invade these other islands, but I can't do that because I don't have supplies in here enough to do so. So now I can't get them out until we control. Okay, so these are completely lost to me right now. I mean, I can use them as a fleet, but because if I invade, say, Crete here, I can't send supplies there because I have to originate. Well, I maybe could. Well, let's see. Algiers can. If I were to do is create a supply convoy. Okay, create a supply convoy. Is Algiers? No, it's not. No, Algiers is not. And this is another limitation of the system. Is I can't send supplies to here, which I am, and then send supplies out from here. I can only do it from contiguous territory here in the United States, which is another limitation. So I can't supply any invasions in here. I guess I could invade from here up to here. So I guess, okay, so I guess I can do that. Gotta think about these things. Okay, well, how would, if we go here, what would be your, yeah, that's the path I want to take. They're pushing on us here, we're pushing here, hopefully with all the British might. The Italians have lost the Andrea Doria. They lose, we lose 2 in descent. Okay, good. There, ooh, we're okay. Ooh, oh, it was our carriers that just got this guy. Wow. Very good. Took down the Italian flagship. Much damage? No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, they wounded a landing craft here, it looks like. They got that close to shoot it? I don't know, but hey. Liberia, what do they want? Okay, yes, you can have metal. And New Zealand, yes, you can have energy. And the Germans lost 3 submarines out here. Good. We're patrolling fleet. And they lost 3 more submarines. Wow, a total of 6. Offering us, we give them money for fuel. Yes, I'll take money for fuel. Now, also, here's another problem with the refining thing. I know I'm harping on about it, but it is important. like we were just talking about with Paul here, is I don't even think the land. Well, okay. Well, see, the landing craft are. I know they have these things here, but these don't really go that far out to sea. What these represent is a combination, and if you look at the expense of building, the combination of the Higgins boats of various types, along with a support ship to handle them, because we can see their operational range is 3,000 kilometers. They did have pretty good range, and the Higgins boats could get across the channel. This is somewhat of an enlarged channel here, but could get across the channel and back with their fuel. But they can't go, halfway across the Mediterranean with their fuel. I guess theoretically you could fill the boat full of oil, fuel cans and keep feeding the engine, but actually carry a lot of troops or supplies or something. They can't do that. So these guys don't burn the fuel that is refined in refineries. I'm gonna bring that up too. We're going to come over here, I guess. I know I hadn't started moving these guys because I wanted to give them a little bit of time to organize themselves up. Now these guys, okay, okay. I think they'll be safe enough. Put them on board ship. These guys on board ship, because if we're going into Gibraltar, we need to sort of go in a bit heavy because the Spanish are there. Okay, what sort of core do we have that we could attach? Core HQ. Okay, yes, we'll do this. We'll find a higher authority in theater to put the new one. Maybe, I don't know. Numbers here that are divisions that are not on board ship. Okay, so we have like 4 divisions here. 2 are very ready and 2 are just newly organizing up. We have some light French forces here. Not good enough to doing it. Hello, Alexandra. Portugal and Benicia. I don't know Benicia. Is that a place? Portugal is, it says beautiful. It would be something else. I don't know. But don't quite get the. Portugal is in the Axis right now. So what I'm thinking of doing, going in here now. We're gonna need. Well, okay. Before, okay. Before you go, stop. Yeah. Okay. No. Oh, football team. Okay. Sorry, I'm an American. I know the World Cup is happening. I'm connected to the world that much. But beyond that, sorry, I don't follow. Ooh, those could be good for the invasion. We're going to put those on boats and reorganize some things up. Okay, those are sort of super units. These were all units that we were planning on going after, like Sicily and whatnot. Yes, well, I do wish Portugal well. Portugal's a cool country. But yeah, I do not follow all of that very much. adding 2 more divisions. Those should be going to the Pacific for operations in the Philippines. We're starting to get this in production. Would I guess. Lost a motor torpedo boat out here, but hopefully damaging the hell out of it. Okay, okay. Bolivia, no, we're not trading with Bolivia. Okay, you go into port for a little while. Get reorganized. Oh yeah, we'll give out crude oil. We got plenty of crude oil. Fuel that we have. Okay. Molybdenum. Okay, energy, yes. How are we doing here? Okay, we got another division here. We've got to push in here. They're holding down here now that we have First Cavalry Division. Gonna hold much better. Victory. Where did we have a major victory? Oh, I think it was defending here. Okay. Cut this off. Damn. Oh. Well, we're going to end the episode, not the live stream. Not the live stream. We're going to save this. I want to thank everyone for getting this far with me. I really do appreciate all of you, but particularly I appreciate Tim, Strongarm, Niagara, Timothy, Toy Jet, and Gary for support over on Patreon. But everyone else, even live, if you can smash that like button, and of course, post a comment below. I would really appreciate that. That really helps the algorithm, helps everything grow, and that's what I want is growth here more than anything else. So thank you so much. See you next time for more, yes, more Hearts of Iron. Okay, we've saved. We're going to make another episode now. So another intro. All right. Welcome, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here, and things are not going well for us. We are, of course, playing Hearts of Iron 3's Black Ice, playing as the U.S. Now, we're having supply problems. You understand the game, you sort of know why we are. Britain does not control Gibraltar, so we are pushing all of the American supplies in here that are then going along the land to here, but they do not go into British territory. Britain cannot supply into here, so these guys are starving. I am flying in as much supplies as I can. Oh no, no, cancel. Oh shit, I did that wrong. Rebase, accept. Rebase to, whatever. That messed up. I needed to air supply. See, I make mistakes. Okay, you, yes, resupply, air supply to here. You're going to fly there and fly back. Just what I needed you not to do, but okay. What you need are more armor divisions and mech units. I need more of everything, Arno, yes. No, I don't need them in Africa because I can't freaking supply them. But one thing I don't need is more fuel-hungry units here. And we're pulling out in Cairo, but we're without supplies, and they're attacking us in Cairo. Now you bring supplies to Kyoto. Now this is what you're supposed to be doing. Bringing supplies in. What do we have down here? Keep flying it. Okay, heavy bomber prototypes have advanced. Nice. Okay, well, that allows us to start researching some of these, but we are already researching too many projects. these guys are doomed. Pilot training advanced. Okay, that is down here. Like, no, we're still, well, no, we're right even with the projects that we can research effectively. Oh, major victory. Where do we have it? Battle of, okay, down here. Good. Now, these guys are going to attack at that. Pushing on the enemy, pushing hard. Let the other forces, if they have fuel and supplies, get. Got a bunch of divisions there. And these guys are repairing. These guys are moving. Nope, not these guys. Oh no, those, yeah, these guys here. Thought I saw, yeah. They're coming there. I think we're going to go after Malaga and then blitz into Gibraltar, because I don't know if that'll be defended at all. And if there are troops there, it'll be much less defended than Gibraltar, and we'll be able to not supply them because we can't get a ground crew training, but maybe we can still get there quick enough. Get Gibraltar. Okay. Yeah, this is going to be forever to get these things done. Are you giving them money for supplies? No. Pushing up into here. Yes, you can have rare materials. Hopefully you're getting some organizational levels back. Light armor designs have advanced. Very good. Either. Okay, I'd rather be doing stuff in, we're still in early 44 than our 44 techs. This is not helping us, so I've stopped doing that. Designs, security units, don't know how much we need that. We do have a few more things like that to do that we could be doing. Would help us out. Could start jets, but I don't really need that or get that far in the game. Yeah, we could do streamlined hull or air independent. Okay, we don't want to do air. So now you have to watch some of these things. Air independent propulsion. To the best of my knowledge, and I am not the best expert on armored advances. Yes, you have no M60s. Yeah. Referring to the tanks, yeah, no, we don't have it. The Germans did, to my knowledge, the only air-independent propulsion submarines during World War II was done by Germany in, I believe, 2 test submarines. They had 2 rocket submarines. And how do you do a rocket submarine? Well, they did it. I forget the guy's name, a scientist who also worked on other projects too. Built a couple, I think in 43, so fairly early. Tested them around the Baltic. And the rocket engine is, in essence, inside the submarine. It is not outside the submarine. But it is burning clean fuel enough that it can burn under the water. And air independent doesn't mean that it doesn't need to come up for air ever. It just means that you don't need air to run the engines. See, like on a diesel electric submarine, to run the engine, to generate the electricity, you have to run the engine. So you need to be either on the surface or with a snorkel or something like that. So it's dependent upon air. These submarines could go down and run their engines at full power under the water, and they were really fast. And they had, in essence, a rocket type engine in there that propelled the submarine under the water. So it was really fast for submarine. I mean, like 30 knots or something like that. It was, fast for a ship. And these were fairly small test submarines. I mean, and the idea that they were a proper submarine, holding a crew of people, but not like a coastal submarine kind of thing. One of these kind of guys, not a big long range submarine or whatnot. I don't know how quiet they were compared to when running their engines versus. I think they'd be quieter than a diesel engine running. But I don't know if there were anything quiet like just the electric engines running. But they did that. Okay, and so you have to watch about putting something like this into the game, or if you're the player, because you can see here that if you go, oh hey, visibility down, but you're radically reducing the range of your submarines. And unfortunately, the way this game works is this is going to affect all submarines, current and future production, because it will upgrade. I believe it now. Okay, now maybe, and some techs you have to put it back through, and maybe this would only affect future production or a rebuild, sending it back through the production line. Some of the technologies here, and I don't know specifically which ones for submarines, but I do know, like on the capital ships, to get the benefit of like the thicker armor and whatnot, you have to send that ship back through the production line. You can come up. You need one of the U.S. here. No, not that. You can here. You can click to upgrade that. And if you upgrade this and you hit submarine, what it will do is, just in case you don't know, and I know many of you people know this stuff, it'll go back into production. It won't cost the same as a new ship, but it will go through the production facilities and come back out with its upgrades. So some techs need that. Other techs, like light anti-aircraft artillery, that will just upgrade over time while sitting in a port. They need to sit in a port and not be active, and that'll upgrade, because that's, so that, I don't know which techs where and everywhere. So I don't know if this would do your current production without going through or not. I just don't know. But do you really want to radically reduce the range of your submarines if you're going to do this? Now, if you're Germany and you're looking at trying to have, and you're fighting against America, who has really good escorts with a lot of high levels of detection operating, and you're operating like near near your coastal regions, in European waters kind of thing, yes, maybe a good idea to do this. Now, if you're wanting to operate on from Germany to operate along the American coast, this would be a bad idea to do this. So you got to keep this in mind. If you even want to, and this is why I often hover over some of these things, like here, support submarines, the milch cows, but your visibility goes up heavily, and your air defense goes down heavily. So because that's presumably the air defenses and the visibility, and I could argue against this, but is happening on the surface enough that you're being spotted. I could argue against this one, and just the idea of the Milch Cow. The Americans mostly just built long-range submarines and didn't bother with that. So I'm constantly going over these and looking for what the benefit is. Like I say, some of this, tactically, like if you're the Soviet Union or something, not that you necessarily would spend the time in researching this, but you may not be looking, and you're just fighting Germany and Italy, you may not be worrying about long-range submarines, so yes, this would be a good idea. But we're not going to do this. But streamlined hulls? Now this is something that the U.S. doesn't do. I'm sure they understand the improvements that this would make. Now they're mainly talking about speed here, and that's I would agree is the big improvement. But there is also a improvement to more quiet. Because you got to understand, there's the pressure hull of the submarine, and that is a series of tubes generally. One big one and maybe a smaller one sitting on top for the up in the sort of the bridge up the top. But the big tube inside of it, that's where all the people are. Then outside of that is a secondary hull, and that's what you see when you look at the submarine. And there's a lot of void spaces around that, and especially if you notice, like when a submarine dives, part of all of that spray coming up is like all the void spaces just that had air in there just quickly evacuating out and causing spray. Some of it is dumping of air from some of the so it depends on also how they're going down, but from some of the ballast tanks, because they can also go down just by engine power and whatnot. But so the more you have these shapes around the ship, they cause sound in the water as you go through them. So the smoother the hull it is, the less sound. Now I don't know for the various passive listening devices during World War II how good they were to pick up those kinds of sounds. Now late in the war, the Americans were adding bigger and often two big guns, more guns onto their submarines, because they were engaging a lot of small vessels, shall we say, in Japanese waters. Not necessarily just around Japan, but also between Japan and the mainland Korea and whatnot, and wherever, that weren't worth torpedoes, but were fairly big. And so they went up to 5-inch guns, short-barreled 5-inch guns. Some of them even had 2 of those on the submarines. And then they also had the sort of traditional 40 millimeter and 20 millimeter, but even that they were mainly using for surface targets. So they were doing a lot more of these things by the end of the war. After the war, they actually convert a bunch of those submarines to streamlined hulls, keep them going into the Korean War era. Germany is developing a streamlined hull. They're learning that they're not going to win surface actions against Allied air or surface vessels with their guns. So get rid of the guns, get rid of all that, and make them, instead of boats that can go under the water, because that's in essence what most all of these really are, except for like the air independent designs. But most of them are designed as boats that can go under the water. Germans are learning we should have a truly submersible vessel that only surfaces when necessary, as opposed to the opposite, a surface vessel that only dives when necessary. Because again, until they get the snorkel going, most of the time the submarines, are going out into the Atlantic, they're on the surface day and night. Now they very quickly, around here, learn that they've got to go as much as they can submerged out of here during the day, because they'll be spotted via air, because there's enough, air operations going on, and periodically they get sunk by submarines, because the British will have submarines loitering off of here and seeing surfaced, or sometimes even submerged with the periscopes up, but seeing the German submarines and shooting them with torpedoes. But once you're out here, there's a lot less observation, and then of course they're still looking for air targets and whatever, and getting ready to dive, but they're to keep their you're going at about 2, maybe 3 knots when you're submerged. And yeah, okay, over 10 hours, that's 20 or 30 nautical miles. But that's still creeping out here, where you're going more like 15, maybe 20 knots or whatever, surfaced. So you want to spend most of your time surface movement. So that's how the German, and I'll get to the chat here. I know people are saying, get somebody in here just a second. So the Germans are going, oh hell, we need to mostly stay under the water, get up only long enough to charge our batteries if you're using a diesel electric submarine, and then go back down and spend most of your travel time under the water. So they're too late in the war to affect the outcome, not just affect who wins or loses. Because you got to realize there's 2 ways you're affecting the outcome here. At some point, it becomes, and I've talked about this a lot, impossible, in my opinion, for Germany to win. At some point, I mean, we'll all agree, when the Soviet armies are sitting outside of Berlin, it's impossible for Germany to win. But at what stage, and I would say pretty early on, it becomes impossible for Germany to win. But they're still affecting how the outcome is going to be, meaning, is it going to be the Soviet Union marching into Berlin, or is it going to be the Allies marching into Berlin? Or do you do early? If you do it early enough, do you do a Stauffenberg assassination attempt, get rid of the Nazis, and then we surrender, we want good terms, kind of thing and whatnot. So you may still lose, but it may not be kind of thing. Hello, Rise Fall, how you doing? Good. Needed a dose of history. Well, very good. Hopefully, I'm giving it to you. Well, and somewhat, we're playing as the United States. We Spain entered the Axis, and then eventually Portugal entered the Axis. So that is taking it off of the historical course. The Italy had conquered, or this was actually Vichy over here, and then Italy conquered Tunisia. So we're coming here. Italy has conquered North Africa, and we're trying to take it back, and we're having supply problems. So, these are some U.S. forces, British forces are trying to retake this region. The Soviets pushed down and liberated Iraq and have taken this territory, but are now stopped pushing in here. So it's somewhat historical, but not entirely. And this is the current state of the Eastern Front for May 1944. The Germans had earlier taken Leningrad and are still sort of holding up here in Finland and whatnot, but are being pushed here, which is sort of not the Leningrad part, but the rest is sort of 44 as it was. And Japan is holding here, Japan, Britain, and Burma. I've been able to hold most of the Philippines. Britain's hold some of the Dutch East Indies, and we're sort of battling around. So yeah, it's somewhat historical. It's historical in the sense that I'm playing as American, trying to defeat the Nazis and all that. But beyond that, it's gone a little off the rails. Not terribly, but a little bit, and reasonably off the rails. Okay. Training has advanced. Carrier air groups. Yes. Okay. No, that's Cass. Here's Craig. And light armor design. Okay, we've already dealt with that. So we can do 2 more research. So yeah, so you have to watch, like I was going on here. We'll go for streamlined hulls. You have to watch what, and yeah, we can do periscope here. I don't know. These will, I think, upgrade. I don't know if we want to slow our units down. A lot of these we could start researching, so we will start pushing through these. No, they never got Stalingrad. They never got Stalingrad or Moscow. They did take Crimea for a while and did sort of push to Rostov here, but that was about somewhere in there. That was about as far as they made it, and the Soviets and that pushed them back. Their one big victory that did sort of turn the tide was taking, and it's still obviously holding up in Leningrad. That was as far as they managed to get with that. So yeah. Now we have have, okay, the fleet has arrived. We have our forces. Okay, let's get all non-garrisoning forces, which is everybody but the garrison. And we're going to head over here. Because we got to take Gibraltar back. That's our next target. Take Gibraltar back. We're going to land here because I'm hoping small garrison, maybe small to no. No, thank you. And they're being pushed on here. Okay, we've got this. Let's support the attack up there. I know that's almost done, but make sure we get that done. Got a Spanish destroyer out here. Okay. Australia wants to build another submarine. Sure, major victory. Where did we have it? Oh, good. Romani. Okay. Now, how long? Okay. Well. Not let me cross there because there's some people down there. A question. If Spain and Portugal would have joined the Axis in World War II, would the Axis have... actually, I would say it would make it worse. That's an interesting question, and I've talked about it before. But not everyone watches everything. I make so many videos, I know. Okay. In my opinion, if Italy had stayed neutral and had been neutral but friendly to Germany, maybe not, because Spain did do the blue division that sent it off to go fight the Soviets, but maybe not even do a blue division for Italy, but just allowed a reasonable amount of trading to go through, which very well might be Italy buying oil from somebody like Persia and then reselling, not huge, not maybe enough to support the whole war effort, but enough to help the war effort, doing some trading like that with essential resources, maybe selling food and other things like that. If Italy had stayed neutral, which then would mean probably Greece staying neutral, may mean Yugoslavia staying neutral, and if Spain stays neutral, all you have for Germany to worry about in the southern front, they don't have to worry about the Mediterranean at all. Now, it does allow Britain to move resources through the Mediterranean, which is critical to Britain, both ways, whether it's like troops to go fight the Japanese or food from Australia for Britain or whatever it might be, or oil from, Iraq or wherever. So it would help Britain in a way, but all Germany would, you'd have Vichy France, and all Germany would have to worry about is if there's an Allied landing down here. And maybe not without Italy going into the war. You might have probably America would force and push into, liberating North Africa. And so at that point, Germany would have to garrison this bit of coast. I mean, it would go a little more over to Nice here, but it would be this bit of coast that they would have to garrison on the Mediterranean. You wouldn't have to deal about Italy. You wouldn't have to worry about Yugoslavia or Greece, and then from Germany's needs, you need Ploetzi, you need the oil from there. So Germany could have a much more limited front against Allied invasions and be able to focus so much more effort on a timeliness into the Soviet Union. Okay, I know. Reisfeld asked about Spain. Okay. Now, so there you go. You have that problem. If you cut off the amount of forces, I think Italy is a net negative to the war effort. Obviously, they tried to push Yugoslavia into the Axis, and that sort of pushed them more towards the Allies, and because of things, they get invaded. So that becomes an ulcer a troop drain. They do not have any significant resources that are significantly helping the Axis. So just controlling that territory is a negative to Germany. Hungary's army ain't that great. It could almost be left out, but and basically all they're sending to the Eastern Front is an army, meaning, 2 or more corps into the East, and I think it's like about 3 or 4 corps, I don't know exactly, but it's one army. Romania is actively only really producing 2 armies to the East Front once they get out of immediate contact with, hey, Beam Slam, and once they get out of immediate contact with the Soviets. So expeditionary armies or forces are just 2 armies going east. And these help for position, on the Soviet front, and just make up manpower. As we, learned with the Stalingrad campaign, neither of these guys' armies can stand up to any aggressive Soviet moves, with a lot of effort. So their formations as armies are not very helpful. Now there's some more. Their forces as size of divisions are. And this may be looking back in history, but looking at them as I would take, a German corps of either 2 or maybe 3 divisions. Most corps are about 3 divisions. Corps are supposed to have, you can put a corps with just 1 division, but the idea is that there's 2 or more divisions there. Is I would do something like 2 or 3 German divisions and like 1 Hungarian division. And similarly with the Romanians, so that they're balanced out, so they're part of the front, so their reserve forces are holding part of the front with their German force in reserve, so if the Soviets attack where the Romanian division is, the Germans can come and relieve that, so that they're useful in combat, but you're not holding a major section of the front with them alone. It does hurt their national pride. It means their higher commands do not, their corps and their army generals do not get commands to do things. And of course, they can supply lots of manpower to hold down rear areas. So they are a net positive to the war. Bulgaria ain't much of a help either. They're mostly helping on occupying territories that didn't need to be in the war. So you don't need Bulgaria in the war. It doesn't help. So that would help Germany. Now Spain and then Portugal, well, neither of their forces are very good. Portugal did a study sometime fairly early in the war, and they decided that they had enough ammunition to fight for 4 days. That was it. After 4 days of fighting, of intensive fighting, they were out of ammunition, and that was referring to both things like rifle and machine gun bullets and artillery ammunition. They can fight for 4 days, and then they were, well, okay, then we're done. So if somebody declares war on them and no invasions, no big action happening, well, they can stay around. But once there's an assault, they can defend themselves for 4 days. That ain't going to last you very long. Whether you are defending yourself, and they were at the time mainly looking at the idea of because America takes over the Azores during the war, and the Portuguese still continue to manage everything, all the civil society situations, and whatever limited garrison that's out there in the Azores stays out there. But America sets up bases and occupies it. So, and Portugal lets this happen and is not upset that it happened, but doesn't want to enter the war. So Portugal realizes that even if whatever sides it joined or forced to join by being attacked, they ain't going to last very long. Spain is in better shape than that. But you got to remember, Spain is heavily dependent on German munitions to fight its civil war. On both sides. Actually, Germany is supplying both sides with munitions, meaning bullets and bombs and that kind of thing, as well as weapons and munitions. So, hey, Exurgent. So Spain to fight the Civil War is heavily dependent upon Germany at that point. Now, by 1940, by 1941, maybe Spain has gotten better munitions production, but probably not by much, because they're more worried about starvation and other things. Franco has other worries on his hands. So if they enter the war, they're going to provide divisions that aren't really trained as well as other forces, as German forces, and probably not even as well as the Italian forces, at least most of the divisions. Yeah, I know the Blue Division fought very well on the Eastern Front, but that's sort of an ideological elite cream, cream sort of skimmed off the surface everywhere. These were a bunch of gung-ho guys that wanted to fight communism, veterans of the war, and the Germans made sure that they were good leaders in there, so it fought well. As opposed to having a bunch of political appointees or cultural appointees, some Hidalgo or whatever, people that just because they're cultural past get promotion. So they had good people commanding and fighting the Blue Division. So the Blue Division does very well. But I don't know what the motivation of the standard nationalist soldier who was fighting for his country against the communists. Yeah, that may be, enthusiastic. But I don't think the standard national soldier wanted to fight everywhere else, and they didn't hate Britain and they didn't hate America, as far as I know. They didn't, think that they were some terrible country that you got to fight. Oh, sure, they want Gibraltar back or something, but that wasn't like, a motivation for the national soldier to go die in some combat. No, it was fighting for his home, fighting for his religion. And Britain nor America were going to take away his religion like the communists were. So there isn't that motivation for your standard national soldier to fight hard, to fight the Western Allies. And yeah, okay, instead of a Blue Division, a Blue Corps or something on the Eastern Front, yeah, that might be helpful, but it's not that helpful. And so you get a situation that now most of the coastline is undefended. So you're going to then have to defend that coastline, build an Atlantic and a Mediterranean wall. The Spanish aren't going to defend it well enough against a enthusiastic American invasion. So you're going to have to send down German troops down to guard all this stuff. Now it is sort of like Italy in that it's mountainous and it's going to be tough country to conquer in lots of cases. So if you come in here, you got a lot of mountains and hills to fight around. If you come land down here, you got a lot of. So I know I've read a lot about the Peninsula Campaign during the Napoleonic Wars, and so yeah, there are these plains out here in the middle, and there's these plains up here. But to sort of get around, you got mountainous here, and mountainous here. Well, the Americans and the British are going to be very, like they were in the Napoleonic Wars, very naval mobile, so they'll be able to land at all of these ports. So you'll have to garrison them wherever they land. You'll have to fight in there. It just becomes a net drain on Germany. Spain was producing weapons for Germany. I have an Astra pistol that never made it into German hands, but was of the type that was being made for Germany during that time period. Eventually, of course, as they were still producing the pistols, little 9mm pistols, look sort of like a tube with a handle, the little Astras. That the Germans were buying in fairly large numbers until, of course, D-Day and the Anvil landings down here cut off trade with Spain. So they were selling small arms in relatively small numbers, for the war, meaning in thousands of guns, but not hundreds of thousands of guns. So somewhere, I don't know, they may have sold 10,000, 20,000 of these pistols to the Germans, as total or something. So not huge numbers for a war effort of industrial scale, but they were making money selling some weapons to Germany. They were selling a lot of tungsten that was being mined both in Portugal and Spain, selling that up to Germany, and selling other things to Germany during the war, and also selling particularly a lot of tungsten to Britain. Britain was just buying it and stockpiling it just to keep it out of Germany's hands. They didn't have the ships to remove it from Spain or Portugal. Just buy it and put it in warehouses. So driving up the price, and Spain was making lots and lots of money out of that, selling it to either side, and the price was just going up and up and up, and they were making all kinds of money. So having it as a somewhat friendly neutral to Germany is much better than having them actually in the war. They would actually hurt, in my opinion, the German war effort, because Germany would, in essence, have to be garrisoning it. Now, I know prior to America coming into the war, Germany is trying to get them into the Axis because they don't necessarily see American coming in. They see the idea of getting Gibraltar. They see the idea of submarine bases, which also, because then maybe you can, because, we also have Portugal in the war here, which has, down here. But with Spain, Spain has a nice little colony down here. That would probably disappear very quickly because the British or Free French would take it out. But, get the Canary Islands and whatnot out here for more U-boats. They're looking at that, and Hitler's trying to get them in. But I see it as a net negative. Let me save this here. See what some of the chat has said. Oh, okay. I think I said hi to Beam Slam. Okay. Okay, back up here. And hello, Mirror Man. How you doing? Well, okay. You will also find the UK turned to keep Portugal out of the war because of exploited for espionage. Oh, absolutely. There was lots of espionage going in both Portugal and Spain. Some of it encouraged by both sides. Yeah, they're outside. Yeah, because you're right. Rise, fall. They just got out of that very brutal civil war. What happens is, and this is going to, Franco was a brutal man. He did brutal things I don't necessarily approve of, but I sort of admire Franco. No, I don't want to live under a dictatorship. I actually knew somebody who was an American who lived in Spain in the early 70s under Franco, and actually sort of liked it there under Franco. But I see Franco as a somewhat of a George Washington for modern Spain. He saved it from communism. He also saved it from nationalism. He saved it from getting in World War II. He realized Germany had a big, massive army. This is before the war, before he invades the Soviet Union. Germany is sort of the master of the continental Western Europe, and could do to some degree what he wants to if he's willing to put his army, into the effort. And so when Hitler comes down to try to get Franco and Spain into the war, Franco said very smartly, in my opinion, says, when asked about, when trying to get into, says, yes, Hitler, I'll join your war so long as you, we have a bunch of needs that we need to have done before the war starts. So before we come in, here's this long list of stuff we need to have. Food shipments, and of course Germany doesn't have enough food to feed itself, but we need all this food because we're importing food from South America, and it's still not enough because there's still starvation and whatnot in Spain, dealing with the Civil War and dealing with the wreckage of the agricultural industry in the Civil War, as well as transportation, blowing up bridges and railways and all that is being repaired still. And I don't know, this is I think late 1940 or early 41, again before Barbarossa kicks off. Obviously post the fall of France, but right in there that Hitler's trying to get in there. So I don't know how much is repaired versus how much is destroyed, but they're still trying to get all this stuff going. And so, if we're going to go to war with the British, well, we're not going to be able to bring in shipments of food from, South America because of, British blockade will happen. So we need all this food, we need all this ammunition, we need these weapons, we need these aircraft, we need all this stuff. So yes, as soon as you supply this unsupplyable list. So it wasn't a no, it was a yes, but conditionally, you've got to hit these conditions. And probably the idea is that if you're going to invade us, it's going to cost even more than because of garrisoning and loss of life, German life and whatnot, to come and invade us. So yeah, it's sort of like a yes but no kind of thing. So it was a way to keep that going, and he was very smart. So I know a lot of people hate Franco, and he did a lot of brutal things. I'm not saying I agree with them. And if you're a Spanish person listening, but he killed my grandparents or something. Yes, he did lots of brutal things, and it was a very brutal time. I hate communism, so he defeats communism. Not the saying everything I like about Franco. I'm trying to be very careful about this, but he saw, he doesn't start the Civil War. There's other generals that sort of start the coup that fails. He wins the Civil War, and he mostly keeps foreign domination out of Spain and keeps the war out of Spain, moves Spain into a modern era, because before then they're still very peasant agriculture of a muscle type, whether it's animal or human muscle type, moving it into modern farming. All that up until the 1970s, and I'm sure there's a lot bad stuff going on at different levels that people can point to, but he brings that out without being Stalin or Mao or Hitler or any of those people. He brings it into a modern world. So it's a tough and brutal situation. I'm not saying it isn't, but with all of that, I do sort of admire, as you can tell, Franco. Not that he has his problems, serious ones. Okay, tax departments have declared me an outlaw. But apart from that, I'm fine working at the moment. Oh, well, sorry about the outlaw status. I don't, yeah. Genius. Being Sam, right now I'm checking on some research and results, just mundane task. Okay. Interesting concept. Gibraltar back, bearing in mind that the vast majority of its history. It was a Muslim North Arab, Gibraltar or whatever is how you would pronounce it in Arabic. And the British protectorate enclave, not sure when getting. Yeah, well, Spain did own it for a while. The British take it away from Spain. So yes, Mirrorman, they did own it for a while. Gibraltar dictatorship is fine, just a dictator goes mad and becomes power. Yeah, and Franco, see, and here's the other thing I admire about Franco. Unlike, say, Oliver Cromwell, who was a deeply evil man, he sets up a dictatorship. Well, he's, on the parliamentary side against the evil royalists, and once he defeats the royalists, they never have a parliamentary election again, and he eventually expels everybody from parliament that disagrees with him, just what they complained that the king was doing, and he rules as a dictator in Britain, and then puts his son in charge when he dies. So in essence, he's become a king without a crown, in that it is now a hereditary dictatorship. And General Monk, who is the charge of the garrisoning army of Scotland, marches down and picks out Cromwell's son and invites Charles II back in as king. Franco sets it up on his death to have the return of the king, and there was a fascist party. Franco was not a member of it, but he sets it up so that the king comes back. Not that he thinks it's going to be some royal dictatorship, but that would allow a democracy to function with guardrails, if you know what I mean. Because there is even an attempt after Franco's death to have a fascist coup in Spain, but that collapses very, very quickly. It's just there for a couple of days that they're trying to do, or whatever, maybe just a few hours, I don't know. It collapses very quickly. But unlike the Spanish Republic without the king, meaning you can have swings over into, vote into not just socialism but communism, and in essence a people's republic of whatever, which is Franco doesn't want. He understands that if you set up with a monarchy, you can have guardrails, so the government moves to the left, moves to the right, moves back to the left, swings around, but within guardrails, so that you don't have the government going and killing monks or nuns in the monasteries just because they're religious, and that's what was happening under the Republican government. So Franco sets up modern Spain, post-Franco modern Spain. Now it's probably moved further to the left than Franco would have been comfortable with. But it has not gone to some radical people's republic because of what he did. And because he set it up so once he dies, the monarchy comes back. And it has a functioning government. That is also why I like Franco, because he looks out for his country. I mean, he never, I guess, feels, and I'm not an expert on Franco, but I guess he never feels comfortable enough to step down and turn it over to the the king or the monarch or to democratic elections, but he does set it up so that on his death it transitions to a monarchy with democratic representation under it. Where do you intend to land in Port? I'm intending to land here in Malanga and try to blitz into Gibraltar. I think that'll probably be faster, better than just going straight into Gibraltar. And the reason I'm landing here is this is where all of my landing craft are. Okay, I can't get my landing craft out past the Straits of Gibraltar, and I can't get my landing craft currently out past through Suez until I control both banks of Suez. So, and the reason I'm doing this is to control one of these ports to be able to get supplies, and Britain to be able to get supplies into the Mediterranean. So I have to land somewhere in the Mediterranean. And I think if I come straight for Gibraltar, I saw at 1.1 here, one sort of unit there. I don't know if there's anybody here, but this has max level fortress, so it's going to be the hardest to take. Now I won't have the ability, well, now I may fly in supplies, but if I can do this fast enough, maybe I can blitz in and take that. This is rough, so we will see. So this is what I'm planning on doing. Okay, and on Gibraltar, Britain gets it at the same time. They get Gibraltar and they get Minorca at the same time. I think it was in the War of Spanish Succession, or maybe it was the war before that. Either late, because in 1685, Spain gives Tangiers to Britain as a dowry for, I think it was Catherine of Braganza, or one of the princesses that I forget which, the one of them that marries either Charles II or James II. I think it was the one that marries Charles II, but I'm not sure. They give up. Britain holds it for a while, then loses it. Not worth holding on to it, but it's part of the dowry. Then later in the early 18th century, they get Gibraltar and Mallorca, and then it's, I think, during the 7 Years' War, they and this is Admiral Byng, who gets executed on his own deck eventually, loses a Minorca and he's executed for not trying hard enough to defend it. They lose it to a Spanish reinvasion, but they hold on to Gibraltar until this day. So Spain did have it for a while. So yeah, Britain takes most things off Spain. Should the U.S.A. be giving New Mexico? Well, down here, this is called, I think, the Gadsden Purchase. We actually bought this from the Mexican government. South of this, this is the Colorado River here. I don't know what this is, but south of here, we actually bought. I mean, we bought this from them. And of course, Texas fought for its independence, and Mexico recognized its independence. And then, of course, Texas joins the Union. And of course, California declares its independence and was independent for 4 days and then joins the Union. So we can argue that over that. But southern New Mexico and or southern Arizona and a little bit of southern New Mexico was physically, this line was bought, paid money for, not invaded, not conquered, not the border move. No, they like, hey, you want a bunch of cash or gold or silver or whatever it was? And Mexico goes, yeah, sure. Well, you know, they sell this to the United States. This little bit is a pure purchase. It is not. Also, Alaska, pure purchase from the Russians. They sold it to us. There were no U.S. ships off here demanding it. It was like, hey, Russia, who was, I think, involved in some war at some point, you know, with the Turks or something over Crimea or whatever at the time. Hey, you're having a problem. You want some cash to fight your important war? Yeah, okay. We'll give you cash for Alaska. And they're going, great, because Alaska was profitable, but not that profitable, and they needed money now, cash now. So yeah, it's not entirely that. Okay, Arno, what do you think would have happened if Franco had lost the Civil War? Spain would be invaded. It would have joined the. Okay, I think from my understanding, is as well, if very early on in the Spanish Civil War, if Franco had lost, it might have stayed a sort of Republican Spain that would have been dominated by radical leftists, communists, anarchists, and syndicalists, and it would have been a holy hell of a chaotic mix. Late war, if it had gone sort of the way it was going, somewhat took as long as historical, with the Soviet influence, I believe it would have become a People's Republic of Spain with only communist forces loyal to Stalin controlling it. So I think it would have become a Soviet puppet. So with it being a Soviet puppet, up until the Barbarossa starting, it would be a pseudo-German ally, because whatever Stalin says, it goes. If it was a radical syndicalist thing, and of course, if you're going to Barbarossa, Germany knows it needs a two-front war. And I don't know how that would have played out with Germany in the sense of Hitler's plannings. Because if it's radical syndicalists and anarchists and communists and socialists with various, mini states and other kinds of things in there, he probably would have just kept his forces moving down, after France is done, taken over Spain, and propped up, and maybe put in some propped up puppet state, because people would have been happy that, if Hitler comes in with a light touch and just deals with the radical crazies, a lot of people would be happy in Spain that it happened, I think, because radical crazies are just, and we can talk about how problematic these are. I hate using that word, how much of a problem they are. So now by the time, late war, if it's a Soviet protectorship, Hitler can't invade until he's at war with the Soviet Union, because it would mean it would be going to war with the Soviet Union. That would be a different situation. It would have been bad either way. Yeah, it's crazy. Some free booze, please. Okay, Gibraltar was Moorish until 1642, then Castilian, Spanish 17. Okay, that's what I was thinking. 1704. Then British since. So no, I think it's British. It's a British possession. It's not even like on Cyprus here, in which there's a British base that the Cypriot government is happy to have, because it's actually right along the partition line with the Turkish puppet state there. But no, it's British territory. I fully agree. That doesn't mean that Spaniards don't quote unquote want it back. It's when they want it back doesn't mean that they somehow naturally deserve it or something. It's just that's what they want. So we can say Britain conquered the world and America bought it. Yeah, America bought a bunch of the world. I mean, we bought the Louisiana Purchase. I know they didn't go ask the Indians that were living there. They bought it from France, but they bought it. They bought, I think they bought Florida from Spain, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, Spain was just, or Florida was really mostly over here, and maybe a little bit over here. There was virtually nothing down here. And no, they didn't ask the Indians locally, but I think it was buying Florida from Spain. And America helped out the Texans, but the Texans weren't just a bunch of white people. There were a bunch of the local Hispanic population in Texas did not like being ruled from Mexico City. So it was overwhelmingly popular locally. Texas independence, and California declared its independence, so bought here, and of course U.S. buys Alaska. So we bought a lot of it. Oh, and Exurgence moved over on to Twitch. So free Exurgent and Exurgent are the same person, I know. So yes. America's bought a bunch of stuff. we're still paying rent on Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. I remember there's an old 60 Minutes interview. I remember when it was fresh, and when the people from 60 Minutes, it's an old news show here in America that lasted an hour and was on Sundays. I don't know if it's still going. It's so irrelevant if it is. It was at one time a very relevant show. I was doing an interview with Castro, and he opens up his, in his office, opened up his desk and shows all these checks that have been uncashed that America has sent them, because he refuses to cash the checks. But they're still sending the checks to pay the rent on Guantanamo Bay, which they got from Cuba for their efforts, of course, to help Cuba be liberated from Spain. So it's sort of like, yeah, now that we helped you out, and then to keep the Spanish from coming back, because they might want to come back, yeah, we'll just take this little bay area and port, and Spain was, or Portugal, or not Portugal, Cuba was like, yeah, sure, because it's almost zero territory, and you're going to protect us from another invasion of. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds like a good plan. And so there's no termination date on our lease agreement for the facilities there, and so we're going in there. My understanding is that Gibraltar is only English people. Yes, Beam Slam. There are a lot of daily, and I forget, one of the people that has been around the channel, there are a lot, and a large percentage, I'm going to maybe say 30 or 40% of the population are daily Spanish people that come into work in Gibraltar and nightly go back to homes in right across the way. So they come and go in and out of Gibraltar every day to work in Gibraltar, but there are very, very few residents that are Spanish, or people that would claim to be a Spanish cultural, genetic, or whatever ancestry. It is overwhelmingly English or British, however you want to say that, but I think it is mostly British, or mostly English. I mean, not too much Scots or Irish or whatnot, but there may be a lot of Scots and Irish. I don't know. But when I say British, I'm sort of referring to at least the Isle of Britain, if not Greater Britain, which would include Ireland. But and otherwise I'm talking about England or Wales or Scotland or Ireland. I normally specify that. So and so those are guest workers that come in to work there, and so yeah, and meaning in the thousands. I don't know how many, like 2,000 or 3,000 or 10,000. I don't know how many come in a day, but a bunch come in a day and come and go. So so it's a very busy thing going on there. So British is always the greater UK. Well, yes. Well, but see, I look at Britain is a combination of the island, or if I'm talking about Anglo-Saxon invasion, and when I've talked about Great Britain, I'm talking about the sort of European British Empire, which would include, the Channel Islands, include things like up at Shetland, and include Ireland for, Great or Greater Britain, So just how, because that is not British territory. I mean, it's British occupied right now just because of the war, but Faroes Islands. So that's what this is sort of what I'm talking about when I talk about Great Britain. But Britain is either the island or Britain pre the damn Anglo-Saxons coming in. Still just, the good old Celts there. Sometimes the Romans, but yeah. So I Breton versus Bretagne. Yeah, I know it is, and that's the way I would spell it different. But I don't know verbally if myself and my accent would get the difference between, because we also have Breton more emphasized, which is Brittany or Bretons, which are the a mix of Bretons fleeing from the Anglo-Saxons and local Celts fleeing from the Franks moving into Gaul And so this is where you get the holdout. And so you have a slightly different language because it's a different language mix because some Gaulish elements, I believe, into Breton versus Welsh and or Cornish or Manx, which are all very similar, where Irish and Scottish Gaelic are much closer than these other Gaelic languages. So yes, you're fine. I know you like to do that, Exurgent. But yes, my dog is a Breton Spaniel living in Britain. Very confusing, very confused town. Yes. So yeah, and so we're talking with all these variations, and because I know most of you have been around, but yes, there are some new people either here or watching later. I try to be very careful with my definitions of things, whether we're talking about guns or rifles or cultures or politics or whatever. So there's lots of terms for this stuff. So yes, so sometimes I'm referring to the British, all the island, or sometimes I want to just with English. Okay, well, we're going to end this episode. It's gone on long enough now. I know not a whole lot of playing, but we are moving these troops to get ready to go into here. So come back maybe for next time to see that. All right. So thank you, everyone. Yes, we're going to make another episode. I think I just saved this, but I'm going to save this again just because you don't play and you just let it pause for a long time. Sometimes it will then crash after you. I just want to make sure we get everything saved up to this point. All right. Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 playing Hearts of Irons 3's Black Ice 11.2. Now, I like to talk about history. I just like to do that. So we don't always get as much playing as some of the people watching would like to have playing. And of course, I'm also making this live, and so I'm getting some input from the chat, which will sometimes take me off course from what we're talking about. But the purpose of this, one of the major purposes, it's meant to be fun and meant to be enjoyed and watched, most assuredly. But there is a purpose, deeper purpose to this channel, and that is to teach history, teach the lessons, even more importantly, the lessons from history. And that's why I really hope people want to come here and to learn bits and pieces about history and what it means to us and what it means going forward and why we are what we are today. And so I really appreciate everyone who can help support me in this endeavor. So particularly I want to thank Tim, Strongarm, Niagara, Timothy, Sir Toyjet, and Gary for support over on Patreon. But everybody else, if I can just get you to maybe earn that, hitting that like button. And of course, if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button. And also really helps if you can go around, whether this video or in a bunch of other videos, just say hi, just make a comment. Doesn't have to be anything intelligent. I mean, hi or how you doing or hello. I'll probably reply back to you. Now, if you want to have a more interesting comment, that's absolutely great to do. But just do those on these videos. It really helps the algorithm and helps get this out to everybody else. And nowadays it'd be more likely LB Lesser Britain. The empire has reduced it. Yeah, it's a rabble of barbarism now. Yeah, I would agree with a rabble of barbarism comment. At least looking outside. Now we're having our own barbarians invade America too, so it's not that it's not happening in other places. But okay, we've lost the effects of high popularity and we're just down to, or very high popularity, and we're down to just high popularity. Okay, and these are various things, and a bunch of them we can't necessarily influence. Air Defense Network advances. Okay, that I believe is maybe here. No, here. Okay, 42. We're going to let that continue. Supplies, yeah, okay, that does hurt us some manpower a little bit, but we got plenty of manpower at the time. It's mostly just that. United Kingdom launched HMS Furious, and of course we already knew that Andrea Doria was lost. I just quite honestly don't know what to do here. I'm not really watching this as carefully as I should. I know that. I've got these guys out sort of doing naval strikes just in case anything gets close enough here. I have forces, but I'm somewhat afraid of pulling them out. I mean, I guess I could just pull them all the way out and let the Japanese reinvade and then reinvade to kill them. I don't yet really have enough forces, I think, to move down and take here. We're still holding key beaches just to make sure the Japanese don't, you know, really flank us. I mean, we're not holding every port everywhere, but you know, this week, well, you know, maybe we should move one of these divisions to here. It's still sort of in the Manila area, but you know, holding there. So I don't really think I'm strong enough. No, I'm probably strong enough to you know, take another island or two, but I don't know if that's really going to help us. So I'm sort of ignoring the Pacific right now. True, he does answer. I try to answer everything, and now sometimes with good questions that Paul does. Sometimes I'm very short. I do not like to type, people. Typing adds two levels of difficulty for me. One is just generically, you know, I can think of the words, but then okay, I got to spell them, and then I got to, you know, then I got to move my fingers around the type keyboard, and I'm not terribly quick. I've gotten better over the years, but well, we already have well, there's Midway. You just got to find. We already have Wake, and we've never lost Guam. They've never attacked us in Guam. Guam is super big here. I don't, and the guy who did this asked me if I liked it, and I did not, because this makes it harder to defend. I know if it was more of a tactical game, and he also made this, if it was more of a tactical game, these would be better, but you know, sort of a Mount Suribachi, better defended position versus here. But it isn't a good idea. Not on this. Put subs in Subic Bay. Well, I don't know specifically where Subic Bay is. I know it's here in the Philippines, but I don't. We have here. I had some submarines operating here, but a lot of, you know, out here, a lot of them have been killed. I've got a fleet here just sort of protecting Manila Bay. I don't know where. I quite honestly don't know where Subic Bay is. We're right now, supposedly, I do know that Subic Bay and what was it, Andrews Air Force Base or something nearby, was sort of destroyed in a volcano eruption. And it was during the Aquino presidency, which Aquino was part of her reason for her revolution against Marcos. Then Marcos was a corrupt dictator. I'm not arguing that point, but was anti-Americanism. You know, it was get rid of Marcos, and Marcos was seen as a puppet of America. Well, yes, we have lost the islands up here to Japan, but they can have them. I don't really care. I mean, they're not moving against any territory that's important. But if you guys don't follow international events very much, Duarte, the crazy man who was elected president of the Philippines, lost the last election, and I don't know his first name, but Marcos Jr. was elected president of the Philippines. So the people realize they elected the son of the dictator. And we're right now in negotiations to reacquire Subic Bay and rebuild the naval base there, and presumably an Air Force base or air base. I don't know if it'll be a specifically Air Force independent, or whether it would be a sort of a big joint complex with Air Force and naval stuff. But also 5 other basing locations in the Philippines, all dealing with the Chinese threat. So yeah, you really have to wonder, you know, people look, and again, I know I should be playing the game. People, I mean, individuals are individuals, okay? Well, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking groups of people. Not everybody's the same. Not everybody wants democracy, okay? And not everybody values it. a lot of people see democracy as chaos, and we can look at like all the different governments of Italy over the years. I remember when I was in university studying political science, one of the professors liked pointing out was is, this was in the um, late 80s or early 90s, I forget exactly the year, but right around there. There's been for as many years since World War II, there have been as many governments in Italy, because some of them last like 3 months, 6 months, and then some of them will last like 3 or 4 years. So there was not a solid enough consensus in Italy to provide a long-standing government to continue a policy through, effective fruition, to build enough railroad or do whatever the policies was. They're constantly changing policies because there's between right and left politics, and for Italy, it's a little bit also north and south politics, different parties, that there isn't enough consensus to have fairly long-term stable government with periodic, every 4 years or every 6 years or 5 years or whatever, check in with the people to see if what they want to vote. And so if you have a stable enough situation, and always some democratic representation is a good thing as a barometer of the people. But looking around like that, you have to see things like, and just today I heard about Sing In Win, I believe I'm pronouncing it right, the premier or prime minister or whatever of Taiwan is stepping down, or because it's Saturday and it was sort of yesterday in Taiwan, because her party lost they had a bunch of local elections, not the national who was going to be in charge, but the local elections, and especially I guess in the north up in Taipei, the KMT, the Kuomintang, the Nationalist Party, which had sort of been pro-unification with China, won big time. These are all local elections. So, well, although it seems to be she was reasonably popular with her confrontation with and building up defense of Taiwan, her party, which is sort of based in the South, which did fairly well in the South, lost a lot of local city elections. So she stepped down as leader of Taiwan. The sort of other guy who was sort of premier or whatever, she was going to step down. It was also her party. She talked him into staying. So although she didn't lose her election to be head of Taiwan, she took the responsibility of, hey, we have not done well. And I like this when I see this happening in Japan, and I'm seeing this happening in Taiwan, is people are taking responsibility for it, and then, yeah, I'm out. Now, maybe she might come back at someday, get reelected or run for office again. I don't know. But she is not just, I take responsibility and then just continue on, like we see in a lot of politicians, not just in America, but in a lot of Western countries. Well, yeah, I'll take responsibility, but then I'm going to continue on because I'm not leaving power. No, she's stepping down. I think she has done a great job. Now, I'm not Taiwanese, but doing a great job in building up Taiwan's defenses vis-a-vis China, communist China. So she's taking responsibility with that and stepping down, and which is going to cause a little bit of problems with Taiwan and the defense there. We're going to see how that works out, and I'm sort of watching it. Well, the Philippines, you had Marcos, which was basically an American puppet dictator since basically the end of World War II. He wasn't the president that was there, that was sort of the actual puppet president, because it was an American protectorate during the period. And I'm not sure. I think it was like Korean War or whatever Marcos gets in, but he was there for a long, long time as an American puppet. And there was obviously, because he was a corrupt dictator, a lot of resentment against Marcos. And because America was supporting him, and because of the Filipinos don't like to admit that they're a puppet of anybody else. They don't like to even talk about or admit the very long Spanish occupation, and basically Spain giving them a lot of their culture, or even the more brief American direct control of the Philippines, it really hurts their pride. They do not like it, but too bad. It's a fact of life. That's what happened. They really don't like to admit this stuff. It is bad. So there was much of reason, that they wanted to get rid of Marcos. But we see them re-electing the dictator's son. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to become a dictator. But I don't know fundamentally, and especially seeing with the return of U.S. bases that we're negotiating right now with them, which, especially if they're giving it back Subic Bay, is functionally going to be, if that, not just, because when I was first hearing about it, was access to Filipino bases. From what I understand for the Subic Bay is, because we're going to rebuild it, it's functionally giving it back to U.S. functionally U.S. sovereign territory. Not that they can't take it back, but it's sort of going to be like Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, in that America will functionally control it and set up as pseudo-American territory. Not like Gibraltar or Falkland Islands or something that is integral actual American territory. It's more like an embassies kind of territory. It's sort of like, I do believe more or less, and I don't know, Ramstein Air Base or whatever, the big American air base in Germany is functionally, once you're in there, you're in American territory, functionally. I don't know if any German law really penetrates it, because I know that there are military police and whatnot to deal with whatever crimes that may happen on the base. So, and it's not like, if a U.S. soldier leaves a base and goes commits a crime in the Philippines, well, it's not like Germany where we accept that Germany has a good rule of law. We don't necessarily accept that the Philippines have a good rule of law. I do know that there have been in Okinawa, Okinawa is just sort of these islands in here. I think this would be it. Is that there have been some rapes or murders or whatever by American soldiers over the many years, just a few, and those have gone to Japanese courts, and they're very brutal on their prisoners. And we've allowed American Marines or sailors or whoever face Japanese justice for actions there and get convicted. I don't know how much we would allow that in the Philippines just because of the corruption, as opposed to facing, charging the soldier under U.S. military law for the crime, and if he gets convicted, it's going to be harsh on him too. It's not like free ride or no consequences. It just, I think if it was a U.S. service personnel, we would probably insist upon being the ones to actually try them, just because, again, I know it's sort of a, like the old, Chinese, European occupation of China, and that Chinese law didn't touch the Europeans and whatnot like that. It's something like that, and it's maybe not quite as open or, as stark as I'm stating it, but I sort of functionally been that way. It's not that they couldn't arrest a Marine or 10 for drunkenness and put them in the slammer overnight or whatever and fine them a bunch of money for tearing up a bar or something. I'm sure those kind of things happened all the time. I'm talking about serious situations. And the Filipinos know that, they're going to, if they get convicted in an American military court, they're going to face real punishment. This isn't just a slap on the wrist. So it sort of works. And so to seeing a country that will elect a son of a dictator, and knowing that more or less it seems that his policies match his father's, maybe without becoming a dictator, really sort of shows you how other cultures work than Western countries. So democracy, I don't take it as a value in and of itself. In fact, I actually agree that pure democracy is very, very hard to manage and work, and the only place that I know that it functions is Switzerland. Now, democratic representation within a government, like we have in the United States, because everybody out there, if you don't, including Americans, we're not the democracy, protecting our democracy. We don't have a democracy. We've never had a democracy. We have a constitutional federal republic with representative elements, meaning people vote mostly for representation. I do live in a state that I will say that does have direct democracy in the ideas of propositions. If you get enough signatures on petitions, that then you can vote yes or no on a law that is mass voted in my state. Not all states have these, but that is just on that, and it can be defeated and it can be overturned, and there's various things. But we live in a constitutional federal republic that has many democratic or representative elements in it, and I think that's very, very great. But that is not a democracy. It is not majority rules. It protects minorities, whether it's minorities of skin color or minorities of thought, religious minorities or other things. Or the rights of the losing party in the situation. That's what we see with a lot of democracies around the world. Whoever wins is now in charge, and the losers lose. And it's just that kind of way. And what has the chat been saying? Indeed, it has been said that democracy is the worst form of government, except all those forms that have been tried from time to time. Well, I would say democracy is, I think that was Churchill, but saying that, yeah, I get to your stuff, say that, Exergen, but I still think a constitutional republic is much better than democracy. Much better than democracy. A constitutional republic, if you have a cultural identification, a constitutional monarchy is also another good thing. One of the problems of democracy is that it's governed by ideology and feelings. Not always the best solutions come up. More a technocrat government would be more efficient, but less flexible and welcoming to new ideas. I know I have said it before, but take Crete quick. It will help you out a lot, and if you don't, at least start a strategic pump. I just don't have the supplies to either. I don't know. I'm so low on supplies out here. Putting more aircraft to bomb it is just going to drain my supplies that I need to supply into here. And if I take it here, if I land troops here, I have no way of sending supplies other than flying them in, and I need all the supplies here. So I know. If we had supplies, I would agree with you. Well done. You're a constitutional monarchy. Britain is, and a lot of European countries are, some more, some less. Are constitutional monarchies with democratic representation in them. Meaning people vote for members of parliament or direct vote for parties or whatever that are set up under a monarchy, like the Dutch, like the Norwegians. Like Sweden, where Germany and France are, Germany's a federal republic. France is, I don't know exactly what, it's has a president, premier or whatever, that has very little power, if I'm not mistaken. And then it has, in essence, it has a president with very little power, I think that's what it is. And then it has a, premier or whatever who has the majority support in parliament. So France is a republic too. Yeah, but I'm trying to see federal republic. See, notice I use my words carefully. France is a republic, yes. Germany is a federal republic, meaning regions, and particularly because I studied it when there was the Federal Republic of Germany and the People's Republic of Germany. I know particularly like down in Bavaria, they, run different parties and whatever. So there is regional governments. It is a federal republic versus just a republic so it's a centralized republic in France, where it is a federal republic based somewhat, not as extreme of a federalized system, but a somewhat federalized system in Germany. Partially that was done because of the Catholics down in Bavaria, but also to allow region. Denmark is also with direct democracy. So yes, and so the monarchy and the constitution that sets up that monarchy sort of gives framework of government within, gives bounds, limiting bounds to what the politicians can do. And so, direct election. Okay, so see, direct democracy and direct elections are two different things. In like Switzerland, there's a lot of everybody goes votes. What should this law be? And everybody goes votes. And it could be on local issues or on national issues, where mostly in America, you're electing a representative, whether he's sitting on the city council or sitting in a state or county or wherever. So you're electing representative. It's a representative democracy as opposed to direct democracy. Direct democracy is the only one that I know is functional in the world is Switzerland, and that where Spain is a monarchy, Portugal is a republic. If I'm not mistaken, if I keep going on, I'm sure I'll get somebody wrong. But yeah, so okay, back to trying to play the game at least here. Soviet Union is operate migration. Okay, let's see. Do we want to? Yeah, we'll let them eat cake. Soviet Operation Migration, Special Purpose Armor Advance. That is these guys. See, I like to learn where all of these are, so I can just go there. That's why sometimes I spend a lot of time looking for it instead of just going down here to cancel it. Okay, we have enough for a couple more slots here. No, actually, we are in a deficit. Okay, so no more. I don't like to do it. Direct elections of representatives. Yes, and that's basically what America is. The only time that it's sort of indirect is with the President of the United States and the Electoral College, because the system was designed in the pre-mass communication mode, in which if you sent your votes in, to a central thing in bigger America way back when, they were afraid that the votes might not get there, so let's send people instead to do that. Yeah, well, Britain, okay. Now, what Beanslam is saying, and again, I'm taking him at face value, that it's a direct election of representatives. In Britain, you also have direct election of representatives, meaning you are voting for your members, and Britain has, and I'm what. Hey, Exurgent, have you ever seen the TV series 1990? I think I've only watched the first 2 episodes. I'm starting to watch it. It's a very interesting TV series, British TV series, 1990. That's why I'm asking you. Made back in the 1970s, to give you a reference. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but Britain, you vote for your local member of parliament, but you vote for that person, okay? And this is what... So you vote for that member of parliament, but you're voting for that person. Now he has a party identification, conservative, Labor, Lib Democrat, or whatever. He has a party, party label, but you're voting for that person. So that is you're directly voting for a particular representative. Now, you go to Italy, you do not normally, and I'm specifying normally, do that. What you do with there is you vote for the party. Normally you vote for the party, and then, and this is civics government class here, you vote for the party, and then they figure out, there's however many, enough votes, and okay, well, party X, well, it'll get 6 seats. Okay, so what they do is they get and they have a list that the party supplies of, 1 through, so if somehow a miracle idea that you win every seat in parliament, it's not going to happen. But they provide a list of 1 through however many members of parliament. And so they take the top 6 guys off, or women, men or women, and this is sort of to the story, guys off this list, on the voters list. And they become the representatives. So you're voting for the party, not the direct representative. So you're voting for the party in Italy, mostly. But, which was a very strange phenomenon way back when, and I only know this because it was sort of going on in the news back then. There was a porn star named Cicciolina. I think I'm getting that right, her name. And I forget, it was like some radical party. They put her on the list, and she went around campaigning for this party around Italy, because it was going to be a big draw, get guys in, vote for this party that literally I think normally only got like two or three or four seats or something like that in the Italian parliament. That was like their max number of seats. Well, she does, gets a lot of party. So I think in her election, the reason I'm using four is because if I remember this correctly way back then, is they get like 4 seats in the Italian parliament. But because she was on that list, the voters for that party were able to go, and she was like, I don't know, number 30 or number 40 or whatever on that list. So no way was she going to get a seat in parliament. But all the guys went and put her, had somehow ever on the voting slip to actually name her and not just the party. So the party was really embarrassed when she got like up in the top 4 or whatever. She got so many votes for her personally that they had to put her into parliament. So she ended up in the Italian parliament for like a series or 2. So that is, so you're mostly voting for the party list, but you can vote for a particular representative, at least unless they've changed it in Italy. I doubt they have, kind of thing. So there are voting for parties versus individuals. In the United States, we vote for the individual representative directly. We don't have that in the UK, only direct election, no representatives, but you can vote for the party or the politician. Right. Okay, so what you have is yes. Okay, so what you have is you're voting for the party with a list of representation. So it isn't yes, you can vote directly for the party, but you're actually mostly voting based on party and not on individual leaders. And in America, it's even more complicated. Unlike in every European country that I know of, the party specifies either who's running for a particular seat, like in Britain, or I think in France, because it's regionally elected, not on a national basis as a national percentage, like it is in Italy or Denmark. It is voted regionally. But the party specifies who's going to run in each of these seats or who's on the list. Where in America, it is that constituency, meaning whether it's like for a senator, the whole state, or if it's like for a representative, like in a local area, it's those local people pick who's going to be for the party in the primary. So if you have a very conservative area, very well that person's going to be a very conservative member for their party, and maybe not who the party bosses want to win. And if you have a very liberal area, a liberal member of, I'm thinking for like the Republicans, a liberal member will win the election. Again, probably who the party bosses like, but and so you get even more direct. So you within your party, you vote who is going to represent you, who gets the most locally, and then you vote for which guy or woman actually who is Ciccolina. Yeah, the Italian ports are. Yeah, that's it. And that was the situation. So yes, it was Ciccolina or whatever her name is. Yes, I remember she carried a little teddy bear or something around with her, and yes, flashed her boobs a lot. So I wonder whether a boob flashing party would be a winning, modern winning political strategy. I wonder if, and I know this is off topic, Feminine, or however you pronounce it, it's a women's based, European based protest group that normally goes protest an event and they take off their tops. They're actually very smart, unlike the U.S.-based ones who sort of kind of do this kind of stuff. The U.S.-based ones always pick very, very ugly women to do this. They're always very nice, attractive women. But in Europe, the biggest complaint is, as I would see, is they normally jump into the middle of somebody's speech or something and then just screech at the audience. So, yeah, I know sometimes it's happening in languages I don't understand. But even if I understood the language, it's screeching. And harridans, meaning women who harass people, men or women, but who harass people, are not well liked. So yes, they're attractive, whether I like their message or not. And sometimes it's been done in some of the eastern regions that are the message is like pro-democracy or anti-war. So I might agree with their message. I don't know. That doesn't mean I agree with all of their message. I don't follow it enough. I just know of the group, and they're smart that they use good-looking women to do this. I think they would do better because they're taking a small minority element and trying to get a lot of attention for them. I think they would do better if they didn't screech once they started protesting. If they didn't shout, if they just took their tops off and hold up a banner or something like that, that says, stop oil or free some political prisoner, whatever their protest movement is about. Again, how much I pay attention to it, but just know that it exists. That would probably actually go over better with voters because it would get the attentions of people and get their message out without looking harassing. But I have to wonder if a modern political party were to try to do that, to actually drum up votes for their party instead of just a protest movement, how well that might do. No, that won't get your conservative Catholic voter, I'm sure. But if it was a centrist or leftist party that was actually doing that, I wonder whether that would do well or not. And that was also based partially off of watching what happened with the situation in Italy, and how much that got males to vote for a party that they otherwise wouldn't have voted for. I always wonder about political. Okay, that is here. Trucks and prime movers, 79. Okay, we're now in balance. Okay, let's see if we can get. I'm waiting, talking too much. I know, guys. Sorry. Oh, I know it's interesting for the chat here. I hope it's interesting for people other times. And we lost a submarine off Spain. Okay. Yeah, well, we should be flying. Now, they may be... Okay, these guys are beat up, so we're going to stop... Oh, pause. Stop them from flying. Get well organized. These guys should have been up, but I probably stopped them from flying because they got damaged. So let's do this. Air intercept. Okay, single engine airframe research. Raid out. And heavy bomber crew. I wonder how well protest movements do and how well various methods of campaigning, getting people's attention, getting people's support. Hey, Starstreak, how you doing? Free pizza or I take off my top. Well, maybe for you that would work in that we don't want to see you taking the top off, but what do Danes like on pizza? Bacon? Bacon wouldn't be terrible. That wouldn't be terrible. Some of the stuff I've heard Northern Europeans putting on pizzas, it just seems gross to me. Okay. Do we have a... Yes, that's what I'm looking for. The 5th Army. Hello. 5th Army with lots of good units. Well, maybe we should have moved you this way earlier. It's going to be too late to get in, but let's attach you to not the 5th Army. And let's attach you to the 5th Army. Let's come in here. Skill. We could promote somebody up. No, not a Grimes here. He has a lot of skill. We'll put him in charge there. And Armored Corps. We're going to put the 2 armored divisions under the Armored Corps first because we want to have most of the forces there. Not so much him. We have some of these forces over here, yes. Go to the more mobile forces. We're going under the Armored Corps. Yeah, your corps is way too far away, so we're going to move you there. And I think that'll be 5, yes. Okay, so the Corps M here will take the rest of the forces. And they'll be close enough to command, even though they're sitting down here. Different fifth court. Okay. Here and get there. Twin engine Bombay advance. No, I guess it's over. We're gonna do 4-engine Bombay. And yes, I could and should not just because I'm talking so much, but pay more attention to like the bombing campaign in Europe and Asia and whatnot. And we should look over here because these guys are going down. But okay, well these guys can move into here. These guys can support any attack. I like that they can do that. These guys have supplies, so these guys get to start moving there. If we can take into here, these guys could theoretically fall out to here. Like we can't. Oh, okay, we're here. Let's see. Nope. No, there's still an Italian force somewhere in here that's keeping me from getting across the straits. An Italian naval force or something. I don't see it. Could be submarines or something. I don't know. Twin engine ground crew. Here. Shift this over to armor, combined arms. On we go. There. I wish I could get across these straits, I just can't. Don't have the supplies until I get this thing taken care of. So yes, this should be played a lot slower than I'm playing it. Okay, so these are just slow moving units. All right. Let's move the 2 armored units onto ships, along with this is a highly motorized unit that can go on ships that'll go fast. Because we're looking at, although we don't have mountain divisions because I haven't made any. Oh, no. Okay, what we're gonna do here is get off ship. Get off ship. Okay. What we're gonna do here is I don't like the way they've done this. This is another thing that Exergen is the one that is somewhat, we haven't really got started, so that's why I'm saying somewhat, is going to help me when he can, once I get things organized myself up, to continue to work on getting Third Reich events to working the way they need to work. Right now, this is the max number of brigades. I like the idea of going to the 7th Brigade in the unit. This unit here, the HQ, allows these other units to have bonuses from combined arms. If you don't have a headquarters in a unit, you don't get bonuses from combined arms, unless you've got one of these or a couple other specials. But these guys can replace the headquarters unit and still get combined arms bonuses. So we can see here, when we look here, we still see this combined arms bonus, even though we no longer have the HQ. And he is a really good bonus to various things, forward attack and whatnot. And I think all of the, no matter the commander, obviously this is Patton, no matter the commander, I believe they're all the same. I've not 100% confirmed that, but this no longer, oh, no, okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, okay, so we have Bradley and, oh, we need to get the other guy off the ship. No, he's off the ship. Okay, oh, here. Bradley keeps moving around, and that with each. So we're gonna, oh no, I got the wrong one, damn. Gotta click right. Click correct. Okay, move him off, and then, yeah, we'll put in almost Bradley here on that division. So that will be better, and then let's get this, because this is a very mobile infantry division. Motorized, fully motorized, not just semi. They're just somewhat breaking of immersion, and I get their points. I just disagree with their points on some of this stuff. So let's move him off here. I would not have had George Marshall as a battle commander because he did not. He did not. He was back in Washington D.C. the whole time, so I don't know if he would have been any good. I'm not saying he was bad. I just don't know. He was a great organizer. I mean, his overseeing of the organization of the U.S. Expeditionary Forces, I would say, was great. Okay, let's do this. These guys and this unit. That over there. So now this is something not quite super force, but somewhat super force. So let's get. We can get all of these. These will be ones without the colorful HQs in the top. Here, put them on board the ship. Okay, and can we put in one more division to go in and hold the port once we go here? So we are going to go, well, let's pause this. I'm going to save this. Pause it. Okay. We're going to go, I want to invade here just because. Let's try an invasion here. I think because when you zoom out to the right distance, I've seen a Spanish unit in Gibraltar oil refining advance. Okay, well, refining efficiency up to 88%. So so that is really good. We've needed that for a long time, and no, we're not going to continue that. That will really help some of my fuel problems that I've been having. Yeah, let's just models are we facing here? Okay, which hopefully won't be much. Okay, that I think is type Pioneer landing something or other. Well, we just took out a huge Italo-German transport units. I don't know what the hell they were doing here. Okay, it looks like there's no opposition. Okay, Australia. Yeah, we'll trade with Australia. Okay, well, oh, this is great. See, and this is what I worried about here. I know I didn't explain it all and could look like I'm saying afterwards, but I believe because I did it because it depends on what level you zoom into what you sort of see. We did sort of spot that there was a unit here. I don't think it's terribly strong, but it is in the strongest possible defenses on the map because these go, I believe, all the way to the top. But we'll look at that once we get there. Now, if I invaded here, they might just do what we're doing here and get in and block me before I get off the ships. That might happen. But if I come here and there was nobody here, I could get ashore before they could move to block it. And they might be dumb enough, because this is a very dumb AI, to move out of the super defensive Gibraltar and maybe just move into the mountains here. And which if I can defeat them in the mountains and then just run into Gibraltar, or if we can get in here, is to do a second, once we land here, come back here and get a second couple of divisions and go straight into Gibraltar undefended. So one of the two or both or something like that. Radar for destroyers and frigates and other light vessels. Great, grayed out, maxed out. Okay, standard infantry branch upgrade. So now we're going to need to be upgrading a lot of our infantry units. So yes, it's actually my brilliant design, my brilliant plan. Well, let's do reconnaissance combined arms. And we'll do coordination because that will keep the almost every division has a reconnaissance. So, yes, you can have that. Okay, so we're ashore. Don't know what. Okay, well, we're not just. Okay, he's still moving that way. Actually, want him to. I don't want to move in here. I want him to get out of. This force. I want to move to here. He wasn't moving. Yes, we can do that. I wouldn't. I would be going straight to the mountain. Okay. Whoa. Okay. There we go. So this is actually, something of a little bit of a problem, except for, like I say, now that he's moved out, let's collect here and here. Put you guys on ships and invade Gibraltar. Where? Okay, we just took out here an Italian destroyer, 2 light cruisers, and the battleship Kyoyo Delio. I'm butchering that. Okay, any major damage? No, and we're all doing good. We will a little bit on the landing craft. Don't know why all these Italian vessels are over here. We're back to high popularity. Very good. Or it's very high popularity. Airborne warfare research. We do not have any para divisions yet, but I thought I would have by now. But radar training advanced. That's here for naval, I believe. Yep. Stop that. And heavy bomber pilot training advance. That is here. 45, good enough for now. Okay, we've won whatever battle here. Okay, now let's come back here quickly. And here. Do these, and then let's increase the organizational levels of some of these units. Get more possibilities because of. While we're doing that, let's just see if there's something I should be doing here. And we get across. Oh, we can get across the river. There's nobody here now. Nope. Okay, you go that way. You go that way. You go that. Oh no, we can't. Okay, you need to come down. I don't know why you. Let's across there. We still like to get across there. We give them money for fuel. Yeah, we can afford that. Monkeys and Broadshire still wage a vicious guerrilla warfare. Yes. Oh, there was somebody still there, but it looks like we've won that battle. Okay. We've just secured Gibraltar, which will give us the Gibraltar effects and will allow us to sail past here. We need to move all of our forces right now into Gibraltar, I believe, because if we stand out here, I don't know how well we'll stand up to all of the attacks. But again, in here, like I said, okay, it's not fully maxed out. It's all but 2. I knew it was very high. But we also have coastal forts and that. So this is now Britain. Britain will have to supply it. So hopefully they'll get a supply convoy going here. We can, I think. Let's do this. Just okay. Create a supply convoy, and we want to come from Washington D.C. And now we're going to go to there, and we should be able to see that into there. But this also will allow us to vanilla Boston to. Let's create another supply convoy. We can come out of Washington, D.C. Again, I have to keep saying this. There is no port in Washington, D.C. Never has been a port. I mean, like any sort of semi-commercial port. To Tunis. Let's go to Tunis. So now, Arno, we can possibly take out some islands, but I don't know whether this force would hold this port here. I just want to make sure I'm supplying it for now while I got forces here to make sure they don't run out of supply. I cannot supply into Gibraltar because it is a British port by the unfortunate game mechanics, but I can supply into my held territory. And so, but at least this way, if they won't be losing out because of lack of supply, it's being stopped because they don't have fuel or supplies or whatever, and they'll get to here and be able to dig in and hold. Pluses, we like those. Everybody keep going into here. Everybody keep going. They can have their other territory back for now, because we can re-invade. We can invade out in Cadiz. We can invade over here. They got supply transportation advanced. Very good. And so we can see here that, again, I was asked earlier on, I'm sorry, I forget who, one of the people in chat, hard to pronounce with the R name, sorry. Spain, in my opinion, is a detriment once you get America in. Now, this, we have 2 corps, or probably almost 3 corps worth of, that is, we can attach that to the 5th Army here. 15th Army Group. Let's see, do we have a, there we go. Eisenhower. Okay, so now they're all here. We have under Mark Clark here, which we all know he isn't the greatest general. Wasn't so terrible. He was just a cautious general and not the general. Oh, he left. Okay, came back. Not the general you want to have commanding a rapid invasion. Here he's just back at the army commander, not up actually commanding the invasion. We have corps commanders doing this here. You have so much. This is the key. I am Alfred. I support Alfred Thayer Mahan viewpoint on history and naval influence of power. Until you had America, the winning naval powers were often well, no, I would say Rome also. Rome and America. Until you, either under Rome or under America, you generally had the winning naval powers, the dominant naval powers, having relatively small populations. And of course, I was thinking of Britain at first, and then I was also thinking of Greece. But because when we're thinking of Greece, we're thinking of either like Athens or Sparta or other sort of city-states. And they could, and obviously, like at the Battle of Salamis, were able to defeat the much larger Persian force. And generally speaking, in naval engagement between Greeks and Persians, generally speaking, all things being just somewhat equal, the Greeks would win. So, but the Persians being a huge land force. Now with America, we do have a scale of population, and combining that with naval movements, all of this is now vulnerable to my attacks. Now I'm planning on, as Arno has been urging me to, and we will be in the near future, taking out some of these islands because, although we do have a large population, I have not provided us properly with a large military force to be able to conquer and hold all this territory. But I should be able to, take out a few islands, leave a garrison around on them that hopefully we'll be able to defend against invasions, and we'll be able to supply them with supplies, unlike what's happening here in Cairo, which I keep trying. Oh, well, these guys are across here now. Okay, oh no, you're still defending. You're a wreck. You're almost as bad a wreck, but we're going to try to get back so they can retreat somewhere else here. But now Britain should be able to also run, maybe expensively lots of in convoys, and maybe to their detriment, but be able to run supplies into British ports, because they've not had a port anywhere in this field of operation, even in the Red Sea. So I think that's where we're going to end this episode. I want to thank everyone. I hope you've enjoyed my various commentaries while playing. I will see you next time for, yes, even more Hearts of Iron. Okay, and it's time to save. So that is how you do it, and I'm hoping that... Well, I'm going to make sure that I have enough forces to hold this open, though I do hope to get out these armored and more motorized forces, and I'm not going to rely upon nice, but, well, I might move one of these guys or something up over to Gibraltar to help hold out, but these light infantry, because I got a few units over here, got a few units around here, a couple of units here. We'll get something in to hold until the British show up, but I'm not going to leave it ever again to just be British, because Britain, if it came out here, Britain will try to expand out and then lose and back and forth, so I'll just keep at least 1 or 2 divisions that are mine, that are in good shape, sitting there ready to hold against any attack, to keep the effects open. Now, everyone, I'm going to be ending this about an hour earlier. I have an errand I want to go do, and I need to get ready for that and whatnot. So I hope, well, I will be back tomorrow. I hope you guys will be back with me, at least Arno and others who want to. We'll be playing some War Thunder, having fun, and talking about things and hanging out. It's a different sort of, as the youngins say today, a different sort of vibe than today's thing. So I know that not everyone who's here now wants to come back to that, but I do appreciate those who will. And so I thank you, all those who've been watching. I hope Starstreak will be there too, as well, playing, if you guys can make it. And anybody else is invited to at least play a few battles with us. Tomorrow, War Thunder 3.6, we could do something like that, yes. At least some of the time. Unfortunately, I really enjoyed last weekend's World War mode. We did that. That was fun. But that's not happening this weekend. No, yeah, I'm hoping to do 3.6. Oh, no 3.6? Not doing? Well, we can avoid that if you want to avoid it, Arno. We'll see. Whatever you want, you let me know. We'll talk. Might want to watch tanks burning. Yep, both in victory and defeat. So see you all hopefully tomorrow. Sometime, I think maybe Monday. I'm not sure. I will be streaming for Slytherin, and then of course I'll be back next weekend. So 3.6 Old Man. I'm not sure what you're talking about now. 3.6 Old Man. I don't know if you're talking about 3.6 BR or whatnot. I don't know. Sorry. Okay. Talk to you guys later.